Good evening and welcome to round 7 of the Australasian Sim Racing Super 2 Championship from Sydney Motorsport Park. My name's Lewis Wedding and joining me once again in the commentary box is Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes. Rhodey, how's it going, mate?
It's been a fun week. But the upshot of it is it's a Super 2 week, so we're back here in the box again. And after the eventful events, that's a good turn of phrase. After the events at Calder Park, we're now on to Sydney Motorsports Park.
Yes, it's going to be quite a contrast. Well, the two tracks are quite a contrast, and I think the racing will be quite contrasting as well. Have seen already in the practice sessions the difference between the top end of the field and the back end of the field is quite large, unlike Calder Park, where outside of maybe one or two drivers, everyone was within pretty much a second, I believe. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how tonight's racing takes shape. Of course, do have multiple races with mixed up top 10 in store this evening, but while we're just kicking things off, drivers going through a driver's briefing. We'll just go through, try and find us a decent camera view, and we'll go over the championship standings. So here we are. It was a bit of a round of change, Roadie, where Darren Kemp didn't quite have the outright speed, and he also got himself caught in a couple incidents which cost him some points. So he now finds himself second in the championship.
Yeah, that was I suppose the big shocker, at least as we went through the night, as to how that would turn out. I'm just bringing up saying myself, but no, that was a big surprise. He'd been very consistent throughout the season, and he held the. I think he's been the longest leader of the championship so far. But yeah, just Coxie, whether it was slipping back to old habits or just maybe just trying a bit too hard is probably a good way of putting it. Just saw himself involved in a bit of a mess in the third race, and decent points penalty from his driving and just from a lost position, ultimately getting spun around by Lockie Burke, saw him down a second. So it has promoted Daniel Cox to the lead with a 60-point gap. It's then also in all that, Termo's jumped up to third, which he'd kind of been floating around, but Dane had been up there as well. Dane Liccardo is back in fourth. He is still in range of a title, and that is still his aim, but he has got a lot to balance. It's not just a high points finish he's looking out for. He's also got a record he's going to try and get clean. And fifth, and maybe not a big surprise based on his pace, but his first half of the season was littered with unfortunate rear grid penalties, is Braxton Stancliffe.
Yeah, he's been a little bit up and down throughout the season as well, with some rounds where he's very, very quick and then some other rounds where he's a little bit anonymous. So still trying to, I guess, find that little bit of middle ground where he can find a little bit of consistency. So that's why Braxton finds himself in fifth place. And same can be said with Dane to a certain degree, with not so much on pace, more so to do with incidents that he's had, because he would have been a bit close. I do believe he picked up a penalty and a disqualification for text chat. So points penalty and a DQ sees him a lot further back than what he would have been. So he's got a bit of work to do. He's probably going to need a little bit of a miracle that all three of the top three runners strike a bit of misfortune. Termo has been pretty consistent. Hasn't been the outright fastest at a lot of places, but he's quite sneaky. He's actually not too far off the championship lead, and now only 21 points away from Darren Kemp. So Termo doing a good job, and I did see the end of practice there. He set a pretty handy lap time, so may see him, take another step forward here and just edge a bit closer to Daniel Cox, and maybe even leapfrog Darren Kemp. Got Cheese there in sixth. He's another one that's been a bit up and down. Same with Peter Thrower. He's experienced some pretty high highs, and he's also been at the back of the field a couple of times and been caught in a couple of incidents himself. So that's why he's in seventh. Matt Cecil, again up and down, likes the odd tyre failure. He finds himself in eighth place. Freakish in ninth, with Taipan rounding out the top 10. I do expect the battle pretty much from seventh all the way down to, I've got the full screen with me, but it is fairly close between pretty much sixth, or not sixth, but seventh place all the way down into the teens there.
Yeah, it's seventh down to about 14th that are separated by 200 to 300 points in just that bracket, and no, it's all pretty tight. There's sort of 10, 15 point gaps, and yeah, and that field has been sort of running around each other for a good point of the season. It's a mix of the guys that are a bit on pace but aren't quite as consistent with some of the guys that just keep trucking along. Steve Warwick sitting there in 12th, Nathan Higginson in 13th. That's a good example. He goes probably had better pace than Steve from time to time, but unfortunately Higo, he's been working on it, but he has been susceptible to the bit of the overdrive at some of the tracks so far this season, which has meant he's finished behind Steve in some of the races. But I mean, that's an example of it. Lockie Burke as well. He's the back end of that challenge. He's been missing a couple of rounds because he's also balancing a real life burgeoning karting career. I suppose the advantage of the Sydney lockdowns here is New South Wales based. The advantage of the New South Wales lockdowns is he has got time to get back onto his sim rig, and he's got some good pace too. So he should probably pop up in the order in the next couple of rounds.
Yeah, he's definitely one before the season started where we did expect him to be probably one of the contenders for the championship, but of course real life getting in the way. And if you ask pretty much anyone in the entire field if they'd rather do real life racing than sim racing, I'm pretty sure everybody would say real life racing. So understandable wise, he missed a few rounds there. But good to see him out there, and here's another one tonight that's going to be one to look out for. And just flicking over to the teams championship, and that's another one that's got a nice few battle packs in that, with Tickford Racing 1, leading Brad Jones Racing. So Tickford Racing 1, that has, I believe, Termo and...
It's Termo and Matt Cecil, I believe.
And Matt Cecil, so they're just ahead of Brad Jones Racing, which of course has Coxie, and the second car
Taipan.
is Taipan. So Taipan might not have had the outright pace, but he's been able to pick up vital points with Coxie obviously leading the way at the top end of the standings, first or second running for most of the season. So that's why they're at the top, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that plays out. With overall, you'd probably say the Tickford Racing do have a slightly more balanced lineup, but if Taipan can just keep doing what he's doing and Coxie just stays out in front, may be able to sneak that away and snag both championships. Red Bull Holden Racing Team, of course, with Braxton and Peter Thrower, they've had some good moments and some good races, but just consistency there lacking there in a tight battle with Nissan Motorsport 2, and then a bit of a gap down to DJR Team Penske in fifth place in the standings, and they've got a bit of a gap over the first Nissan team with Erebus, which has seen a heap of drivers. They're like 1994 Formula One team, one of the back markers there, with a heap of drivers in and out of that lineup, with Walkinshaw and Andretti United, with Pierre Roy and Lockie Burke missing a bit of time in that one, and then Matt Stone Racing single car outfit with Dane Liccardo and Gary Rogers Motorsport in 10th. And as you can hear in the background, it sounds like we're just about to get qualifying underway.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you talk about Erebus and their driver lineup. They're currently on to, I believe, their fifth driver of the season. If you include myself. So, no, plenty of drivers going through there. But yeah, we are into qualifying, and this will be different to last round. We mentioned already how much of a different track this track is. It's a lot wider on average. It's also quite a bit longer, so you've got plenty of room to stretch the car out and stretch the gaps out to the cars around you. And unlike last round, although it's a very early talk about it, we missed the chance to talk about last round, so getting nice and early. A lot more tyre wear as well around here, because there's a lot of long loaded corners.
Yeah, I have been messaged just before tonight took place with regards to how that's all going to play out, supposedly. From one of the drivers giving me a little bit of information. I won't say what one, but fuel is not going to be too much of an issue. Qualifying, though, we are in qualifying session, of course, an outlap and 2 hot laps before the tyres are gone. So we'll probably see 2 runs from drivers, maybe even 3 if they just do a single lap run. But in the race, it's going to be interesting. You're going to have to do some tyre management if you want to run the soft tyre. So that will be something to look out for in this one. Lockie Burke will be the first man to attempt to set a time, and might as well jump on board the Walkinshaw and Andretti United driver. And already want to talk us through a lap of Sydney Motorsport Park as he comes through turn 3.
All right, so yeah, through turn 3, we missed the first couple of corners there, but it's a long, fast turn 1 into a hairpin at turn 2. Through turn 3, they're a bit of an offloaded corner, likes to get the rear out. Turn 4 now, into the big long right, into a big long left, both third gear corners. You're just sort of sitting there waiting to get on the throttle. You can use a bit of the exit curb here, but not too much, or you're going to pick up a track cut. That is the exit to the South Circuit pit lane. Now into turn 5, you don't want to go too close to the exit, the apex curb, because there's a double hump there that will get your car unsettled. Now down through turn 6, tricky corner here because it goes off camber towards the exit, and it will really encourage you to run wide. Then down into the hairpin here, and you're just waiting to get on the throttle through here. Second gear corner, and it's very easy to spin the car out of the corner. But Berkey hasn't done that. He's kept good control of his throttle and of the rear of his car. Now into the run into the last couple of corners. This one's a fun one because you're going to basically be braking while you're turning, and no race car likes that. Out of the exit curb there, which you can use plenty of it. There's nobody on the inside. And now through the last corner, and just getting on throttle as soon as possible. He's gone out into the curb, but he's kept the wheel spin in check, and this should be a pretty decent lap from Berkey, which we're going to see in a few seconds' time. And there it goes. The 128.765.
Yeah, so decent banker there. Got a number of drivers setting purple, well, within very, very small amounts of time. Got Cheese, that was quite close. Kemp's gone purple in sector 1. Got Coxie is purple in sector 2. As Cox goes to the top on a 28.7, and we've got Burke and Turmo within half a tenth of that as well. Braxton as well's just set a time. Cheese just coming through the final corner. He set a pretty handy first sector, but it looks like he's picked up a track cut in sector 2. But Kemp in behind was on a fairly decent lap. Set a good first sector, but he's lost time throughout the lap and gone to P6. So a lot of moving and shaking going on at the moment. We've got Burt going faster again here, so we'll just cut to him. He's got Braxton purple in sector 1 as well, but he's got traffic in front of him. Got a Penrite car in his way. I think that's PJ, one of the newcomers to the series. So we've got Steve Warwick there in 4th place. He's doing a really good job at one of his home tracks here in New South Wales. But Lockie Burke lost a bit of time in the middle sector there, Odie.
Oh, no, yeah, I was watching him for that lap, and he was 2 tenths up through the first sector, and one of the corners I mentioned was that double curb on the apex. He caught that, and that must have lost him a bit of time, but no, he ended up a long way off where he was, but he was up through the first sector. You did mention Braxton. I think you mentioned the Penrite car trapping him up, so he won't be doing too much better. Dane Lucado slipped up into 5th, just ahead of Braxton, and that'll be pretty tight fight. Actually, he has gone better, and he's gone up to 4th, so still the best part of 4 tenths off of pole position, but this is a good run for Dane. He's as I said, he's going to manage the pace with some other things, so he'll be driving within himself a little bit for the next couple of rounds of the season, so he might not see him outright on pace where we'd expect him to be, but he's aiming to make more of a race driver himself than a qualifying specialist. But 4th is still a good start so far, with 4 minutes left in the session. That puts Steve right back to 6th. Kempy's in 7th. McLaren boss Zach Brown finally in the seat you think you're destined to be, and he is now in the second Walkinshaw United car, which makes sense for the McLaren boss. He's now shuffled down to 9th. Lockie Locks jumped out into P8, and Freak is currently running out the top 10.
Is that midfield fairly compact, but there's also some gaps there as well. A number of drivers haven't set lap times out there. Luke Emerton's another driver that hasn't driven in ASR for quite a while. Last time he's done a proper event would have been in TCC a couple of years ago now, but we're still waiting on times from Cheese, Higginson and Taipan as well. So a number of drivers are picking up track cuts or just fencing it. As there you go, Higginson has now set a time in 15th, but we'll just stick with Darren Kemp. He's on an outlap at the moment, as Braxton's actually gone purple in the first sector, so I may just cut to him and see if he does improve for a moment. But pressure now is, have to say, on Darren Kemp after that Calder Park round. He's going to have to, find a little bit of speed, because Cox has had the speed on him as Braxton goes to the top on a 28.3, so a good 3.5 tenths over Coxie here. But back onto Kemp. He's got a bit of work to do now in the championship here, Rhodey. It's not too far behind, but you have to say he's only really led the championship through consistency and not through outright speed, which now he's going to need to have.
Yeah, it is now. It was his to lose, and now he's going to put the work in to bring himself back up into the fight again. He is still mathematically within the shot, but Coxie, for the large majority of the season, has had the quicker car, or at least been able to qualify better, which normally resolves in better race results. We saw with Kempy, a lot of his problems came down to the fact that he wasn't as fast as the cars around him, so he had to defend to try and hold position, which is what caused a lot of his problems at Calder. So yeah, Coxey's going to need, sorry, Kempy's going to need to find some car pace, or possibly hope that the inverse happens for Coxey. Or yeah, it's going to go the way of Coxey, and also Tomo is, as we mentioned earlier, sitting in third, and he's got some good car pace as well.
Yeah, Turmo went a little bit quicker in the practice session, so I would expect to see him find a little bit of time as Kemp's being held up a little bit from the Milwaukee car there. Can't remember who's driving that car.
That is Glenn Miles back in that car.
There you go. So Glenn Miles back. Kemp so far a bit down in the first sector, and I think he's going to be even more down here in the second. We've got Braxton again. He hasn't gone purple in the first sector, but again, very solid in the first. If you're doing 27.7 in the first sector, you're doing all right. Also got
Yeah, he said a first sector there, and then I think I've just cut during his leaving pit lane, so he must have made a mistake somewhere there, probably through one of the fast corners, maybe a little bit too greedy on the throttle, where Braxton's been throwing the car around quite hard. Cox looking pretty good as well. He has been sitting some green sectors, not purple sectors. That said, he is now up in his PB. He is only the best part of 2/10 off of the back of Braxton. So this is, unless he picks up something in this last sector, and it is a very short last sector at this track, unless he picks up something here, it's not going to be a pole, but it will put him with a bit of cushion to those behind. Looking at those guys in third and fourth, Lockie Burke and Tomo, there's 7/1000 between the two of them, so they're both.
We've got Burke up at the moment. Well, Burke up on his own time by 2 and a bit tenths here. Still a tenth off the ultimate pace, but looks like he's going to improve if he doesn't muck up the final sector here. So Burke, if he is able to hold on in this final sector, should move up into second. But I'd say there's still quite a bit of time in it from a number of drivers out there, but time is running out for these guys. And Burke does improve, but not enough. He actually lost a little bit of time there, about half a tenth, which would have put him about equal or just ahead of Cox there that he did lose in the final sector. He's also got a bit of traffic in front of him as well. So this will be his final lap. He's got to put it all together now. Cox is in the pits. Braxton is just about to start one more fire. And also got Turmo in the pits. Have seen Cheese settle up, and he's sitting in P5 at the moment, so he's doing a good job as well. And Liccardo has gone double green on live races, but I'm not sure how much that's going to move him up the field. And he may, or he should cross the line in time to do another time lap if he's got the fuel in it, which he does.
Zane is the back of the car, so everyone coming around from now is going to be locked in with the laps they've got. First car coming around to the line now, he's just put in the pits, was Taipan, so his best result is 10th. Then we got a good break now until Peter Thrower being the next car around. Nathan Higginson chasing him down. Pete Thrower currently, I think, on an out lap, so possibly just came out a bit too late for start of qualifying because he's not going to set a time. Higginson behind is on a timed lap, but he doesn't improve, so he stays 12th.
Zach Brown about to cross the line, and he doesn't improve. Also got Lockie Burkers behind him pulling into the pits. Matt Cecil on a lap. What can he do? And he improves, but not enough. He's behind his relative there, Justin, by less than a tenth of a second. Steve Warwick pulling into the pits. We did see Dane Liccardo spin at the exit of turn 2 or 3 there, so he aborted his lap, and I think that's just about everybody that is going to set a lap. Just going to have a quick squeeze on live races here.
Yeah, the only other cars out there at the moment is Kempy, and he was down by a good couple of tenths, so he's heading to the lane. The other car there is 22nd, which is PJ, which is Phil Whiteman.
Yeah, Phil Whiteman in the Discord, and he's about to cross the line, and he doesn't improve on his time. So that will do it. I don't think anyone else is on a time lap. We'll just quickly cycle through everybody. Higginson's done, we know that, and so is Matt Cecil. So that is qualifying done and dusted. And Braxton Stancliffe has taken pole with our new championship leader right alongside him on the front row. Lockie Burke will start in third with Turmo in fourth, Cheese in fifth, with Dane Liccardo coming in sixth. Steve Warwick having a good run in seventh. Lockie Lock as well. He's having a good solid run in eighth. Kemp Further down than what we're normally accustomed to seeing, in 9th place, Taipan in 10th, freakish 10th, with Nathan Higginson as Zach Brown, Peter Thrower. And we have Justin and Matt Cecil in 15th and 16th. Luke Everton making his series debut in 17th. Josh Watson, hashtag not last, in 18th. Ryan Walsh in 19th, just ahead of Glenn Miles, with Melody Smith 21st and PJ rounding out the field in 22nd.
So not a bad grid size either. Obviously, we were maxing things out last round, and I wouldn't be surprised if just from some of the driving we saw that some people maybe taking a bit of a break. There were a couple of guys in there as well, just trying to sort of set their sort of get their hand around, or sort of get a handle on the supercar with the Enduro Cup in mind. One of those drivers, Melody Smith, has returned, and I believe Luke Emerton is in Super 2 for the exact same reason, although you might know better than me.
I don't know. I don't know if he's registered for the Enduro Cup with any driver or team, so I couldn't answer that question. But either way, it's good to see him back out there again after a long spell. Ben Hall has been in and out of the server, so I presume he's going to be racing, but I don't think he set a time in qualifying.
I don't believe I did see him set a time. No, I know that he is live streaming, and it's possible that depending on where his net status is at, that his net can't handle both. So if he is trying to live stream, maybe don't until you're confident that your net can handle both. Depending on where his net. But hopefully we do see Ben out. That would make 23 cars.
Yeah, so going to be an interesting first race here, and did touch upon it just a little bit at the end of practice start of qualifying there, that tyres will be an issue around here, so I'll just try and touch up on it in a moment. So just going to switch over a couple things here. Alright, so as you can see here, driver's just waiting for the green light here in the warm-up session, but going off what I've been told, you can make it on the soft tyre, but you will need to save the front right. The race pace probably not going to be in the 29s or 30s for much of the race, because supposedly if you run at that speed, you're going to wear out the right side tyres, particularly the front right, just a little bit too much. And the last couple laps are pretty slow if you do wear them out. So, going to be interesting. I wonder if there's a driver or two in that midfield there, Rhodey, that may be on that harder tyre, that we may not see them do well at the start of the race, but come the middle point of the race, we could see them moving forward as the soft tyres start to fall off.
Yeah, that's something that we haven't actually raised in a little while, especially because last round the hard tyre was not even worth considering. Yeah, I haven't actually sat down and have a look at the times a little better and compare them with where we normally see people sitting as to whether anyone did qualify on the hards. We have found so far this season tracks that we've thought needed hards and half the drivers thought needed hards and never actually needed them. So it's potential that a lot of the drivers now are banking the other way and are going on softs and then going to try and balance tyre management in that first race rather than juggle, or not so much juggle, but rather than count on the hard tyres and then find themselves woefully off pace across a race stint. So I think that's what we're now seeing, is that most of the guys are out there on softs, and only if the softs really don't work for them, I suppose, your Matt Cecils and the like, would they then go back and have a look at the hards again. But based on the pace everyone's doing, especially some of the guys dropping into the back end of the top 10, Steve Warwick, as we mentioned, it is a home track for him. But he has been more consistent than outright pace this season. To see him in 7th is pretty good. That in turn suggests one or two things. Either the Steve is really in tune with this track, and it is a bit of a polarizing track for some people, or that some of the guys that would normally be sort of around that back end of the top 10 have actually qualified on the hards. So I suppose we will see that come the race.
And just seeing some people practice starts here, and I wouldn't advise people to practice the start on the right-hand side of the grid, but we've got people doing that. So you saw a Red Bull, I think it was Braxton, driving through the field at full speed there. Just wanted to get some extra practice in. Yeah, gonna be an interesting first couple laps to see where all the things shake out. See in the background there, I think Ben Hall has made it back in the Yeah, he has made it
in
back
the
in the
good
cool
old car.
drive
Yeah,
car.
I've just spotted him knocking over some of the advertising boards.
Yeah, some brand new boards that we've whacked out there, so that'll be a bit of a that'll be something that'll go on his credit card after the race is done and dusted there. So yeah, as you touched upon there, it is a very polarizing circuit. You get some guys that really enjoy this place and are quite in tune with it, and you get some other people that absolutely loathe it. It's usually it's quite polarizing. I'm sort of in the middle. Some cars, this track actually quite enjoyable. We did a GT3 round around here last year, I believe, or the year before, and it was actually quite fun. In a supercar, it's not quite as fun, but I might not be the quickest around here, but it's a good circuit to drive. Wouldn't advocate holding an F1 Grand Prix around here like the old New South Wales government and some motorsport fans seem to think, but I think for supercars and for even something like some of the Formula cars, it's quite a good little circuit once you get in tune to the place anyway.
Yeah, it is a good sort of, I suppose, downforce circuit. So it would be quite nice or downforce slash sort of high grip circuit. It'll be interesting because it does come up on the calendar a few times for the rest of the ASR extended season, because obviously we've got Super 2 here tonight, and we've got Supercars here in a week's time. And it will be also making an appearance on the affiliated TSAC MX5 Cup calendar. That'll be interesting. We are going to be using the Druid circuit, which eliminates the middle sector and is just a little left-right flick onto the back straight past the hairpin.
Yeah, so where Peter Thrower is right now is where the track rejoins itself. It just cuts out that whole middle sector. So from turn 4 onwards, you run straight and turn left instead of going right.
Yeah, so it's a little left-right flick. It'll be interesting though, because in testing those cars, they behave much like the the stock Camaro race series, which is interesting because MX-5 is way about half of what a Camaro does, but they boat. So I fully expect. They boat and they drive like the minis that we raced a couple of months ago. In that they love lift off oversteer. So I expect one or two things to happen when we bring the X5s here. Either full-blown boat understeer through the first corner and everyone has a match charter, or everyone is reverse entering turn 1.
No, you just got to
either or.
No, you just got to pin the throttle and just go for it.
But no, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, and we talk about tyre conservation, and you're going to be having to sacrifice a lot of speed through the first sector, because a lot of that first sector is the long right-hand corners, turn 1 and turn 2. Speaking of, though, we should actually have a pretty good race start. I mentioned to Nether Elman before the Supercars broadcast, we're talking about the race start, and I mentioned the longest run down to the tightest first corner, what could possibly go wrong. This time around, it's very different. The turn 1 is eliminated in being turn 1. Turn 2 is effectively the turn 1 for the first lap. But it is you do get a nice bit of time between the start and that first hairpin to establish yourself.
It is difficult, though. We've seen in various series that we've run, as well as in real life, but particularly in the sim world, that I've seen. Turn 2 around here, pretty much every single race I've seen around here, there's been at least one victim. So that hopefully we can get through tonight any, but we'll see.
Somebody does end up trying to go 3 wide or 4 wide through there, and then gets pinged off the outside of it. But it's not going to be a case of Calder where we were surprised we didn't get a safety car every time we went through turn 1 on the first lap.
Yeah, so having a little bit of a long shot there from looking from turn 1 on top of the hill all the way down to turn 2. And it's not so much people trying to make it 3 wide where there's an issue, because sometimes, you can get through there on the first lap, multiple cars wide. It's more so people get caught out by their car in front braking where maybe a little bit earlier than what they're expecting, or they just weren't paying attention, and then they run to the back of that car and then they go and spear into someone else. That's generally what's happened. People just not being alert enough, and just sort of concertinas on and causes a spin further down the line. Anyway, hopefully we can avoid all that and everyone's able to get through cleanly as we tick over to the race session. And, the grid is set, but I don't know what to really expect from these races tonight, Rody.
Yeah, it'll be yeah, I'll be interested to see because it's the first time in nearly 2 months that we've had tyre strategy come back into it. So we're gonna have to get back into that method of calling rather than calling flat sprint races. And yeah, it'll be interesting because this is one of the season most people are pretty confident on the softs or are pretty confident, going to the first race on the soft. So I really don't know what we're gonna see.
Of course, 3 races this evening. So just like there is in every other Super 2 round that we do host this season. So even if you do muck up the first one, you've got 2 races to redeem yourself. Of course, in races 2 and 3, 10th place. If you finish in 10th place at the end of races 1 and 2, it is reversed in the next race, the top 10, as we get the formation lap underway. And Rody, why don't you run us through the grid here for race number 1 from Sydney Motorsport Park?
Alrighty, so starting on pole, Braxton Staincliffe. Some of that excellent pace from this season coming out to show again to put him on pole position, with Daniel Cox in second, current championship leader in the Brad Jones Racing number 8. Third is Lockie Burke. Good to see him back and on form in third in the Walking Trend United number 2, with Termo in fourth, the first of the Falcons. Fifth is Cheese, first in Nissans as well, in good qualifying performance by Cheese, with Dan Liccardo sitting in sixth. Steve Warwick, another good showing, putting up to seventh at his home track, with Lockie Lock in eighth in the first of the TGR Team Penske cars. Ninth from Darren Kemp. Big disparity to where we usually sort of see him on pace, but hopefully a bit more of a measured drive for him so far planned for tonight, with Taipan running at the top 10. Freakish in 11th for the drive.com.au Nissan Altima, with Nathan Higginson in 12th. And I realize I can slow this down because the outlap is a lot longer than Calder.
Yeah, you can take your time and breathe.
Yep, I will do. 13th is McLaren boss Zach Brown, finally moving across from one of the guest drives to be taking over the second Walkinshaw Andretti car. I can't remember who's pulled out of that car, but the property has come true. We finally got the United Autosports boss in the United Autosports car.
It was Roy, I believe.
It was Pierre Roy. Yes, you are correct. It was Pierre Roy. 14th is Peter Thrower, the second of the Red Bull Commodores, with Justin Cecil in 15th, second of the DJR Team Penske Falcons. Matt Cecil in 16th, leading his cousin, just behind his cousin, in Justin. 17th, Luke Emerton in the Plus Fitness Ultima. This is normally been driven this season by Aiden, but he couldn't make it tonight, so it'll be good to see what Luke Emerton can do. First time we've seen him since the AMS Oz TCC days. Josh Watson, hashtag not last, lane from 18th, which is most definitely not last. Bit of a helpful bump there from Glenn Miles, and it'll probably be the fact that Luke Emerton is currently a bit out of position. Brian Walsh in 19th, Tickford Racing number 2, the Rabble Club entry, with Glenn Miles of the aforementioned car, the 23 red Milwaukee car, in 20th. Melody Smith moves across to Team 18, a car that we've seen a lot of drivers in, but not a lot of drivers rock up in. I think it was McLean Lynette who last had this car. So she'll be starting out at 21st. PJ in Discord as Peter Whiteman. Phil Whiteman. We're starting from 22nd with Ben Hall, who missed qualifying back in the Team Cool Drive car, the number 21 ZB Commodore, starting from 23rd.
Yeah, going to be very, very interesting. As for the stream buffering, I'm not sure why that is, but probably because someone's watching Netflix in the house, so that'll be part of the reason why. But yeah, I'm getting some OBS colours that I don't like seeing, but at this stage I'm not going to change it, so do apologise for that one. And someone is not lined up on the grid.
Looks like Termo. No, he is in his box. Okay.
Anyway, lights are on now. Away we go. Massive jump start for Dane. That's a 10-second stop go.
That's the V8 Utes approach, that jump start.
Yeah, so he's decided just to own it and keep going. Thankfully didn't run into anyone at that stage, so we'll just avoid looking at him. The front three very, very close together. Big dive from Braxton Staincliffe to get into turn 2. And, well, there's Steve Warwick in one of the Penske cars wide. Taipan's a little bit wide, but for the most part, it looks like everybody has got through there cleanly. As Coxie is getting a big hurry up from Lockie Burke. And Termo having a look at Cheese, who's just started to have a look at the back of Burke as well. So a little bit of battling at the moment. And Darren Kemp already up 2 spots with Lockie Locke and Steve Warwick losing out there.
Yeah, something we're seeing very much immediately is just I suppose the youth of this top 4. Coxie is the oldest in the top 4 by a measurable amount. The rest of them are all teenagers, and you can sort of see that in the energy they're throwing out. Obviously, Dane with his jump start and just went into it. Braxton as well, and Berkey giving Coxie the big hurry up. Coxie is though trying to have a run at Braxton.
Yeah, you got Braxton going defensive into the hairpin there. And it's starting to cause a massive check-up in behind. So a bit of a train now behind Braxton. And Coxie looking to get by. So you have a look back here. Coxie right behind Stancliffe. And also, I think, a little bit further back as well. Burke has got Cheese right behind him as well. Braxton's going to go defensive into turn 1. And he'll hold on to that position. Cox has to get out of it. And now he'll probably come under a little bit of attack from Burke in behind. But Burke decides to stay to the outside. Cox puts his nose in there, but again, just backs out of it. And we've got all the recipe for a little bit of a disaster here if these guys don't sort themselves out or just back off just a little bit.
It's some very excited driving. Burke got a very sideways out of turn 2 there. Maybe a bit of help from Cheese just pushing on him. Same for Braxton with Cox just up in his rear bumper, and Coxie's very, very, very mature head on those shoulders, but he is not afraid to have a red hot go here with these youngsters. And he's got the challenge of he's got Burke behind, but he wants to get ahead of Braxton in front. He needs to be pretty bold to pass Braxton, but he commits too hard at the wrong spot, and he'll be opening the door for Burke. And Burke is holding up a big queue of cars behind him. So if Burke gets through on Cox, that's going to open the floodgates. Termo sitting back there in 5th. Kempy's made his way up to 6th, and I think that's Steve Warwick who's recovered back up to 7th. But still some very willing racing so far.
Yeah, look, getting some reports that the stream's no good. I can't fucking help it, so give me a break. I'm not going to turn it off midstream, otherwise I'll have fragments, when I go to put it all and re-upload the race later. So this will be how race 1's going to be, as we see the 2 leaders side by side once again into turn number 1. Braxton holds on again. And Cox right out sideways as he clips the curb, and now Burke is going to look to make a move into 2nd, but again, decides to back out of it. So we have had Dane Liccardo serve his 10-second stop-go penalty, or a jump start, so he's now well down the field, and he'll be hoping that there's a few bust-ups that he can sort of take advantage of, because he's not going to get that time back. But Braxton holding on for now, but it seems like he's a big cork in the bottom.
Yeah, and he has had the pace in qualifying. He has now got to manage that across the race. And we talked about the tyre strategy and the managing of it. If he's out there on softs, yeah, he's to be balancing those tyres. If he's out there on hard, he's actually in a good position in terms of being able to race as hard as his tyres will let him. But then if the guys behind him are on softs, then there's a bit of balance to play with as well. I'd imagine based on his qualifying pace, he's out there on softs, so he's going to manage his tyres. He's going to try and pick the balance between how hard he can go and just when he wants to push it, and if he can push it all on his tyre strategy. We don't know. We know the tyres that softs needs some management. We just don't know how much management they need. It doesn't seem to be at a point quite so obviously where it's been previously, where drivers have been running at 8/10, and then it's sort of been I suppose almost like the cycling peloton thing of who's going to go first. But looking at all these drivers, they're all on fast laps. So I don't know, maybe they're managing at the back end, or maybe we're going to see a stop halfway through.
And, well, we've got Kemp there just showing fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 30. It just shows the pace that these front guys are on. Did have Burke, was quite close. There's a little bit of mistake from Braxton, and Cox having a look into turn 2, but again, just backs out of it. I was going to say, though, that Burke was very, very close in that final sector to Cox, but had a poor run off the final corner. It was a bit wide and then got it sideways. But very, very close here. First all the way down to 12th place, separated by only 6.7 seconds. And we've got Watson there up into 13th, so he's had a really good start, as has Hall. As Liccardo, well out of it, has gone and set the fastest lap of the race. That's clear air for you. As you see Cecil now move on Kemp and gets the job done. He's back up to 5th, and Warwick, even the opportunist, looking to try and get a move done there as well, but not quite close enough. And both those guys, Warwick and Kemp, bit of a slide on there. So Kemp now just falling back just a little bit. He needs to work his way forward. So Termo, that's crucial to move him closer to second place in the standings. As once again, looks like Burke, well, he did have the initial run coming out of the final corner, then backed out of it. So the line he was taking, not the most ideal one.
I suppose one of the things with this track, unless you've got the confidence you can make a pass before turn one, you don't really want to have a go at turn one. You can get through here too wide. It's just the racing line compared to the track width is so narrow. It's sort of, I suppose, like the old turn one at Silverstone for an idea. You don't want to put your nose at the inside because it's going to cause a plane crash. So, yeah, it's sort of almost like a no fun zone turn one. Oh, big sideways moment there from Berkey. So by no means he's backed out. By no means is he letting off. You can see from his slide. He's now got Cheese to worry about in his mirrors, and they're all trying to still get past Coxie. And Coxie very much squawking the bottle now, with Braxton sort of clearing away by about half a second.
And just seeing word that Kemp doesn't actually, he's not on a new set. He didn't start the race on a new set of tyres, and he doesn't have any new ones left. So he was silly enough to not go and come back in the practice session, or leave and come back in the warm-up session to get a new set of tyres. It looks like Braxton's made a mistake because he's got Cox right behind him, and was, well, checked up so much that Burke actually had to get out of it and turn out of the way, and he's going to lose out to Cheese because of all that. Or is he? He's going to have the inside line to the penultimate corner and to the final corner, so he should hold on. And he's going to look to take advantage there, Cheese around the outside there, which he's not really going to do. And now, well, he's not going to be close enough to make a move into turn one, but they are coming up to lap traffic. And interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, so what all that has done is it's dropped Berkey and Cheese and Cherman into their own little three-car battle. It also moved Coxie a little further back up on the back of Braxton, who was enjoying probably a little bit of break and the sort of free air that Berkey was awarding him by sort of attacking back at Coxie. But yeah, we got lap traffic now, which is PJ. Braxton's got his lights on already, just to let him know, because he does not want to get caught up here. Any time he loses here to PJ is going to hurt him, and Coxie's got the lights on too, because they all want clear passage through, and PJ obliges, runs nice and wide and gives them plenty of room to work with. So the racing resumes.
Yeah, does a good job and gets out of the way, but once again, looks like it's Coxie all over the curb there. I'm not sure what corner number that is, but straight over the top of the curb there. But just as he was getting closer again to Braxton in that middle sector, and Cheese now having a dive, and Lucky Burke aware to it, opened the steering, and all this battling no good for the tyres. Burke doing a good job holding on around the outside, getting that better drive, able to hold on to that third position as Cheese climbs all over the curbs, and now Termo's going to try and set up a good exit out of the final corner, but I think he just left a little bit too wide there, a little bit further back. We've got Kemp. He's coming into the pits. He had Lachlan Lockhart behind him. And in he comes. So he's having to put on a new set of tyres. If it is a new set, or it's only barely used set that he's putting on, he's put his pit lane speed on very early there, so that's going to cost him more time. Could be a masterstroke if these guys in front actually do have some tyre issues later on in the race.
Yeah, it might turn out to work out for him quite well. Based on the pace, and we're talking about the tyres, based on the pace these guys are doing, considering that the three of these 5 cars have been the guys who have been the go-to guys on average for tyre management across the season. It's only sort of people like Hans who have dropped in and done better. That being Berkey, Coxie, and Termo. Yeah, if these guys are pushing this hard at this point, I'd suggest that maybe, I don't know, people were just, I don't know what was happening with the tyre management during practice stints or whatever, but there's a lot of confidence with these cars. So either they're planning on playing something that we're not seeing, or these tyres are good to go to the end.
And we've got Termo and Cheese battling out. We also have Cox and Braxton duking it out, with Burt keeping a watchful eye as well. There's a bit of driving in the mirrors sort of taking place there with Braxton there. Might need to watch that, because someone will set a move on him at some stage and he might end up in the fence or turned around. So But this time around, though, Cox very, very good coming out of that corner. All he's got to do, really, well, he's gone defensive early, his Braxton. He's moved over again, which sort of straightened up a little bit. I wouldn't be too pleased if I was Cox there, but...
I'm interested to see Braxton's he's going to have to lose some speed here to get through that corner.
It's immediately defensive.
A little bit.
And again, Cox going to try and go around the outside of turn 2. Not really going to do it. Burke's not close enough to capitalise on that. And a bit of marks gave Marcus Ambrose with that, but a little bit more space left this time. And these guys have dropped Cheese and Termo if they've battled, and as well, with Kemp dropping out, we've seen Lockie Locke find himself in 6th place, but a bit of a gap between himself and Termo. Higginson having a good run. He's starting to put Locke under a bit of pressure.
That was big elbows there. Cox had a run on the outside of turn 5 where the south pit lane exit comes out, and Braxton wasn't about to open the door for him on the exit of the corner, so Cox was trying to go around the outside and was very much into Braxton's door, trying to open the door, and Braxton wasn't having a bar of it. So very fasty racing. That's actually dropped that next couple of seconds of corners have dropped Coxie back a bit, dropped him back towards Berkey. And that's actually dropped the two of them, or sort of put them in a position now where Cheese and Termo are coming back into this as well. So it's ebbing and flowing, but it's always coming back to a 5-car fight, this lead battle.
What's interesting, though, we have seen Dane Licata obviously do a stop-go penalty. So not a drive-through, a stop-go. So that's equivalent around about to a tyre stop. They had a second or two faster, but he's actually come out 12 seconds ahead of Kemp and Warwick, who have both pitted for new tyres. So that clear air just shows... if you can get in that clear air, you will find yourself in a good position. But these guys, they're trying to make their tyres last another 4 or so laps, and they're going to be holding on. We did just see a lap or so ago, Steve Warwick, fastest lap of the race, sitting at 29. On the last lap, the lead is in the mid to high 30s. But I would expect these tyres to probably in the last lap or two, Rody, to just fall away even further. So if we're going to see mistakes, it's pretty much from now onwards.
Yeah, we are reaching the danger zone, obviously. For the way these guys are driving, they're confident the tyres will get there, but it'll be pretty 50-50 on just how much tyre life you've got at that point. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the more aggressive drivers blowing a tyre, and it would be the front right tyre. So hopefully then it doesn't happen starting that last lap, or they're not going to make turn 1. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. No, there's no shortage of let up. They're still racing very hard. Just trying to cover stuff. I've noticed they've been knocked down, so you're obviously pushing very hard if you're running out far wide enough to knock over some of the ASR ad boards. But Termo, I will say actually, Termo's starting to drop back a little bit. So whether he's just haven't got the pace, or whether Termo is maybe less confident on where his tyres are at, Termo is a seasoned driver, and he'll be happy to have a 5th if it means saving the tyres a bit than trying to risk a 4th, lose his tyres and drop back further. Although these guys are 4 in front, no, they're pulling away because that was Braxton and I think through to Cheese, all going through and setting lap records. Cheese now with a lap record of 129.6.
Here we go. Cox making the move for the lead.
Oh.
And
he just muscled through.
He's muscled his way through. He did have overlap, and he gets the job done. They're just coming up to Glenn Miles, who's just pitted. I did see on the last lap as well that Matt Cecil had the cog on. He may pit. We do know he has had tyre issues in the past. So we did also see Cheese at the fastest lap of the race last time by. So his tyres seem to be okay at the moment. And I think a little bit of slipstream help. Glenn trying to get out of the way for these leaders. A little bit awkward for Burke as Braxton now up the inside.
Oh.
And it's a little bit wide on the exit. And Cox is going to try and have a look. No, not quite close enough here. And both of them just a little bit wide. And Burke a little bit sideways as well. Cox having a look up the inside.
That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. He's gotten to the back of Braxton. Luckily, it wasn't bad enough to spin Braxton around, but he probably had to check up a little bit to make sure. But just to give Braxton a chance to straighten the car out. So that's brought these guys again back into this train. It's now still a 4-car train. Tomo's in 5th, and actually, sorry, that is Glenn Miles that they're still pulling away from. So Tomo's pretty comfortably in 5th. Walshy with a drive-through penalty. That'll be for. I imagine, no, he's leaving the pit lane, so it'll be speeding in pit lane. So he'll be back to the pit lane again in the next lap or 2.
And here we go, Cox.
Big bump and run now down the front straight.
I wouldn't say bump and run, a little bit bump drafting, but...
Bump drafting, sorry, yeah.
Cox just trying to get a move done here. Going to try the up and under again and sort of force right to the inside there. And driving like that, it may end in tears there. A little bit overly defensive. Obviously been watching the stream back Braxton from Calder Park.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that not that this battle was ever tame, but I think we're reaching the point where as quickly as the tires are going off, the gloves are coming off with these two. It's not quite going to get to blows, but Coxie definitely, I suppose, definitely dropping into sort of, I suppose, more the impulsive driving of the younger drivers around him.
Now, of course, Cox doesn't really have to be so aggressive and risk a penalty or getting turned around as well. He does lead the championship, as we see Cheese wide in the background, so his tyres starting to probably fall away, and I do reckon that Turmo probably just starting to back off a little bit to try and make sure that he does get to the end. Just having a look around, looks like a number of drivers have pitted as well, a little bit further down the field. And Cox a little bit wide at that second last corner there. That's an invitation for Burke. And they're going to go side by side down the pit straight. And a lot of breathing room now for Braxton Stankiff, the most he's had all race long.
Exactly. So this is music to his ears. Even if Burke isn't able to make the pass, just putting Cox under pressure, forcing Coxie to put his turn attention elsewhere, is exactly. It's giving Braxton room to play with. He is now up to 8 tenths, which is the biggest lead he's had all race. Previously, it was 5 tenths at the midpoint of this race, and it's what he needs now because if Coxie's backing off and Coxie isn't as close, he can relax a little bit and drive a bit more within himself and within where his tyre life is currently sitting to be able to make sure he can make it to the checkered flag with all 4 tyres still in the car.
Still have a lap and a half to go. Cox just probably driving a little bit more in his mirrors than what he is looking forward now. So these guys battling as hard as they are now, it's probably going to throw away a chance of a victory here. As a little wide goes Cox. Not quite close enough is Burke. The challenge, we've had contact between Turmo and Cheese there. And we'll just cut to a replay to just see what happened. Both those guys are around. So Cheese was off the track, lost it while off the track and punted into Turmo. So a bit of bad luck for Turmo there. Justin Cecil's got himself a penalty. And that may cause tyre damage for these guys. We've also seen a pit stop, I believe, for... Who was it?
That was Justin Cecil on the pits as well.
And we've got Peter Thrower around as well towards the back end of the field as we start the final lap. Lockie Burke did get himself into second place after all of that. So that's that dusted. Braxton just needs to pretty much cruise home from here. 2.5 lead to start the final lap. And Cox can just cruise it home for a podium place. He's got a good 6-second gap over Turmo. Nathan Higginson having one of his better runs or best runs of the season, currently P6 at the moment, and not too far away from Cheese, who, looking at his pace at the moment, he looks slow. So I reckon not only damaged, but I think his tyres are completely gone.
Yeah, I think Cheese maybe pushed a bit too hard, too early for at least where his driving style was at.
Yeah, his tyres are gone. Higginson's right behind him here. So Higginson should go and get by him at some point on this lap the way he's going. But we've got yellows out there. So that's why that didn't happen. We've also seen Braxton lose quite a bit of time to Lockie Burke as well. Middle part of this lap, but he should be able to get home. He's just got one corner to go, and unless the tyre fails now, he should bring it home. But not the most ideal run for the final corner. It's going to be closer than we thought, but Braxton should just hold on after a very spirited defence all race long to mainly Coxie. But Burke coming home strong and finishing in second. Coxie will extend his championship lead, finishing in third place. Turbo will come home in fourth. Cheese did manage to hold off Nathan Higginson. I will have to cut to a replay to see what happened to Higginson there because he was a little bit closer. So I'll just cut back there. So what has happened to Higginson?
He's just overdriven at the hairpin.
He got himself ahead. He got himself ahead and just overcooked it, and then under brakes, and then had no rear tyre left and spun it. So could have had a top 5, but still 6th place, pretty decent effort from him. Freakish home in 7th place. Everton up 9 spots in his return to ASR/AMS Oz, home in 8th. So good drive from him. And we have Taipan home in 10th place. Ben Hall, another one up quite a number of spots. I don't think he pitted. And it paid dividend to him finishing 10th. And he'll start 1st in race number 2. Josh Watson home in 11th place. Agonisingly close to starting on pole for the next one. But still good points for him. Lockie Lock home in 12th. Just ahead of Matt Cecil. Then we have Darren Kemp in 14th, who we do know did have some tyre dramas in that one. Warwick home in 15th. Peter Thrower home in 16th. And team boss Zach Brown home in 17th. Ricardo, after his stop-go with the jump start, home in 18th. And then we have Justin Cecil home, or just about to be home, in 19th spot. With Glenn Miles, Brian Mulch, PJ and Melody Smith all one lap down in this one, and everybody able to finish that one, which is always good to see.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you called it. The top 5 stays the top 5, but even then there was little breakaways at the back end of that, and it was everything outside of the top 5 was really a random draw. I mean, Josh Watson, hashtag not last, very nearly got a top 10 and very nearly got a pole position on actual merit, just on being able to keep trucking along with those tyres. It does seem to be that the strategy game is to save softs rather than pit again, because you lose so much time in the pit stop and they're not gaining that much time, at least over the leaders, in outright pace if they're pushing on their tyres. I'm interested in the lead pace in the back end was only a second off of quality pace. So I think the strategy is, as it has been all season, softs and manage.
Yeah, so still will be interesting to see how race 2 goes, because if, let's say, they're not racing as hard and they get some clear air, they may drive a little bit too hard in that instance because they're not travelling as quickly, because they're defending position in certain places, so they're not putting as much strain on the tyres. You may see the tyres actually start to become a little bit of an issue. But yeah, certainly going to be an interesting race number 2 with the grid mixed up just a little bit. And it's not the easiest place to pass. But with that, and also with the stream issues that we've been having, just going to take a break, and I'm going to try and sort the issues out. So we will be back in a few minutes' time. See you then.